the power of the innovators, the power of businesses, and it gives me great pleasure right now to introduce to you Lance Forman, who is exactly one of those great entrepreneurs that has a dynamic business and has grown despite the odds, I think it's fair to say, despite Europe, despite the regulation and the red tape. So please would you welcome to the stage Lance Forman.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy Father's Day. This time next week, the debate will be over. We, the people, will have spoken, and with hard work, passion, dedication to our cause, and good fortune, will have changed the course of history for good. For a brave new world based on cooperation, where our mutual interests are shared, and a world where our differences are respected. Now, whilst the Remain camp do fear-mongering, I do fishmongering. And the media loves our soundbites where we explain that last year, due to EU red tape, we had to spend thousands of pounds reprinting all our packaging so that a packet of Forman's smoked salmon could have an EU warning sign printed on the back saying, contains fish. I mean, I sometimes think the EU should have a big warning sign above it saying, contains nuts. And here we all are at Billingsgate Market, a building which used to contain fish. Lots of fish, supported by a British fishing industry, which used to catch lots of fish. But the fish didn't remain, and nor shall we. But the Remain side love quoting acronyms of all these august institutions who support their cause. The IMF, the CBI, the OECD, and so on. All those letters, like alphabeti spaghetti. It's not surprising they spell disaster. Funny, isn't it, how they haven't quoted the one acronym belonging to our Chancellor, George Osborne. You'd think with the initials GO, he might support the Leave side. Every time George announces a budget, 2 minutes later it goes into reverse. First it was the pasty tax, this week it was the porky tax. If somebody, and all those economists too, they only deal in theory. Well, I'm a businessman and I deal in reality. So if somebody asked me to invest in an enterprise which hadn't grown for 10 years, which hadn't had its accounts signed off by the auditors for 20 years, which had a financial strategy based on a currency which everyone thought was a disaster, and had very highly paid directors who never listened to the shareholders, and directors you could never remove, I would not invest in that enterprise. We should not invest in that enterprise. It's totally irresponsible. But then they say, but it's important to have a seat at the table. Well, would you want a seat at the table when the table's on the Titanic? I think I'd rather leave the captain's cabin and grab a seat in the lifeboat and encourage all the others to do the same. And then they talk about trade deals. It has taken the EU 10 years to reach a trade deal with the USA. Sorry, 10 years not to reach a trade deal with the USA. And guess what? Trade with the USA still happens. Perfectly well. Because trade deals do not mean trade. Can you imagine if businesses took 10 years to strike deals? I mean, the whole global economy would collapse. These bureaucrats don't have a clue about the real world. And we're all being ripped off by all these expensive bankers and lawyers who advise them and charge by the hour. Or maybe it's by the year. The Remainers keep asking us, what's it going to be like when we leave? Well, with less red tape and without being tied to a deadweight currency, the answer is simple. How about better? Yeah. Well, last time I did that, I got a slap around the ear from my wife. We don't need to follow other people's leads. We're Great Britain, we'll do our own thing. Now, there's one subject that has caused a huge amount of consternation in this debate: immigration. And the emotional side of the argument has blinded the Remain camp to any sense of rationality. Can I make it 1000% clear? I have absolutely no problem with immigration. Indeed, my father was a Holocaust survivor who came here as a child, having spent many of the war years in a Siberian prison camp. I positively welcome immigration. But immigration needs to be managed. Let me give you a very simple example. I have a restaurant. It can seat 70. Now, if one night 120 people showed up outside, I wouldn't hate the other 50 people who couldn't get in. I would love them. After all, they want to come to my restaurant. So I could just give everyone bad service and small portions, but then everyone loses out and I get a bad reputation. Alternatively, I could build another restaurant, but I can't do it that night. It's going to take 6 months, a year. And this is the problem with immigration. If we want to offer services, we have to know how many people to cater for. It's as simple as that.
Hear, hear.
And as an aside, you must all come down to my restaurant, but not on the same day. So I say, we have absolutely nothing against the people of Europe, or indeed any of the countries of Europe, or any country. We just don't like the self-serving way in which it's all run. One huge gravy train. Think of it like this. We love football. We just hate FIFA. The people running the EU have had it too good for too long, and as they won't go, we will. Chairman, Mark Carney, said, if we leave the EU, the pound will collapse. Well, here's my prediction as a businessman, Mr. Carnage. It's not the pound which will collapse when we vote to leave, but the euro. It will be cheap holidays in Europe for all our spirits when we leave, and whilst we're there, we can tell all our European friends how we achieve the freedom that they want too, and empower a people's revolution across the continent against a self-serving, unaccountable, undemocratic, and frankly, unimpressive elite. The EU leaders are afraid. They call it contagion and make it sound like a disease. I call it democracy, the will of the people, and I am with the people. The 20th century was America's century, and people say blithely that the 21st century will be China's. Stuck in the EU quagmire, there's not a hope in hell it's going to be Britain's. But when we vote for our independence on Thursday, we will unleash a new spirit of hope, entrepreneurialism and innovation for this amazing country. And just as it was ours in the 18th and 19th century, the 21st century will be our coming of age. So, ladies and gentlemen, leaving is not goodbye Europe, it's hello world.